the confidence and security of the wealthy is shattered by the Black Death, and their fortunes are now a source of spiritual guilt. Money does not really offer them protection from the wrath of God. So the rich go into a type of charitable frenzy, inspired at least in part by an urge to appropriate an angry God. These gifts to charity are also a shrewd economic and socio-political calculation, since this gift-giving can, overt social discontent and civil disobedience, i.e. rebellion. Now, the wealthy demonstrate their faith in the one institution where a proper sense of social discipline and order managed to survive, the church. The church may have been discredited in the eyes of the common people, but to the nobles and social elite, who of course with loads of money, the church was a type of wall or levee that could hold back the flood of insurrection and anarchy. The wealthy give away gold, silver, and jewels in order to save themselves. And so the clergy can beautify their churches, enhance their power and prestige, and maintain their stability and hierarchy. In essence, this is a type of religious revival, a revival filled with a strong element of conservative politics. But that's only part of the story, folks, because there's a violently radical streak raging all over Europe that coexists with this conservative revival. The post-Black Death period is marked in many of the countries of Christendom by an overwhelming resentment at the wealth and complacency of the social elite and of the church, as well as a fundamental questioning of its philosophy and organization. These spiritual radicals draw their strength from the disillusionment, discontent, and disgust felt by the common people. For example, the Fratricelli, dissident Franciscans who believed poverty was the essence of Christianity and that a wealthy church was not necessarily a good church. These spiritual rebels, also known as the Zelanti, and later known as the Spirituals, insist upon no deviation from the original Franciscan rules, the observance of absolute poverty, and they demand separation from the rest of the order. Pope John the 22nd orders these spiritual renegades to return to full compliance with the church's wishes, i.e. kiss the ring or else. Those who did not obey were branded heretics, excommunicated, and handed over to the Inquisition. Now, we know at least 4 of these spiritual rebels were burned alive. These rebellious Franciscans responded by denouncing the Pope himself as a heretic. They rejected all sacraments but their own. The Franciscan order then splits into 2, those who submitted to the Pope and those who did not. Now, during the second half of the 14th century all over Europe, spiritual fraternities spring up in the shadow of the more established religious orders. Religious movements not only of protest and rebellion, but of withdrawal, as idealistic men and women seek refuge in their own spiritual communities, refuge from a harsh, vicious, and corrupt world. The existence of these spiritual societies in itself is a type of criticism of the traditional religious system they rejected in droves. It is a time of spiritual and social unrest, with pertinent questioning of the conduct and values of both secular authority and the church itself. Without the mysterious Black Death epidemic, the tempo of events, the massive changes would have taken much longer to bring about. This smoldering feeling of disillusionment, discontentment, and disgust gives birth to the ideas of Luther and Calvin. And this desire for change is not only theological, but also economic, leading to violent outbursts of, well, peasant rebellion. Now, the Black Death changes forever the European common people's state of mind, and the long-established doctrines are now more easily in doubt. The terrible suffering of the Black Death breaks down the psychological barriers and acts like a type of spiritual education. The medieval mind now doubts the promises and premises on which their society, i.e. Christendom, was based on. The church itself became a victim of the Black Death when its most competent and dedicated clergymen perished along with their parishioners. And the institution loses its honor and respect in the eyes of the people. The church still continues as an immensely powerful force, but its unquestioned authority over its devotees never fully recovers and is pretty much lost forever. The survivors of the Black Death expected many things from their church, all of which never fully materialized or never materialized at all. The common folk, disgusted with the hypocrisy and corruption in the years following the Black Death, well, they lived lives stamped by vice and decadence. A wave of self-indulgence. They really let things go. Crime rates soared. Blasphemy and sacrilege becomes far more commonplace. Sexual morality was quickly forgotten, and more people carried arms, which of course leads to a serious increase in violence. Now, while the Black Death was raging, people believed without question that the mysterious disease was punishment from God for their wickedness and sinfulness. In their view, sin had provoked the suffering, and the Black Death generates more sin. So there's a vicious spiritual circle going on here. And yet they continue, undeterred, their wickedness and sinful course. Eating, drinking, and, screwing against a background of apocalyptic doom. The survivors, now relieved of a terrible psychological tension, can now enjoy themselves with more money, more food, more drink, and more sex than ever before. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we may die. Medieval society, not to mention any society, could not endure the physical, mental, and spiritual punishment which the epidemic of the Black Death dealt out or dished out, and survive without serious scars. Scars and strains that, well, basically set off massive changes. Irreversible damage was done to the relationships between different groups within the medieval society. For example, the clergy and the laity, well, they're never the same again, and the relationship between the rich and poor drastically changes. In the case of the Black Death, now the lot of the peasants in the countryside, in the country improved